share, if you wanted to share a little bit more about your personal connection to suicide and how um, that has affected you and how you put that energy into the event.
So, again, like I was in the Marine Corps in 2005, 2009. It was a very different time, I think, as far as the way the military looked at mental health and also that transition back to stateside. When I did my deployments, I did them back to back. So I did them a year long, came back for like a few weeks, and went back for 10 months. And I think they've changed that. The military's done a great job of dwell time, kind of services that are given out to veterans. There's still, I think, a lot of room for improvement, which is why events like these help bring awareness to people. So when I was in and I did those deployments, I think people were just deploying at a very high rate. The first time I had my encounter with suicide in the military, I was actually still in. I had a sergeant that I knew. We deployed together. He had transferred into a different MOS. And while I was still in, when he transferred, he was still at Camp Pendleton. He had committed suicide on base. His wife and kid had left, and we found out about it. And it was like, he was like the happiest go lucky dude. I mean, like one of the best Marines you ever met. I knew him because he was from New York, and that was where I started to hit like that. Wow, we really need to take a look at, like, when we get out, what's your support system?
Yeah.
You and I talked about the importance of when we get out. So I had a very good support system. Like when I got out, family, friends, people at the VA were like, you need to come down here. You need to enroll. I got into the outpatient treatment that was there for about 4 years.
Wow.
And, going to art therapy, doing one-on-ones, having a group. And even the Vietnam veterans that were in the group, they were like, listen, man, like, if you don't get it under wrap, you're going to be us in 30 to 40 years. Divorce, substance abuse,
Yeah.
Domestic violence, all different types of stuff. So they're like having that. So like I was very lucky to have that.
Yeah.
So then obviously since 2009, there were 4 other people that I had lost to suicide. But this was, I think, the hardest because him and I did. I mean, we went to Vegas together. We went, we deployed together. We were stateside together. I mean, our group was, just as tight as could be, like most are. And he was a very happy guy. He had a good support system in where he was living at. The thing that you and I talked about that you and I think connected very much is like sharing the stories, right? So.
Yeah.
I don't really know how the Marine barracks are set up now, but it used to be catwalks. So it was like a hollow dormitory. So like everybody had like a porch on the outside, and so everybody would come out of their room, and it wouldn't be hard to find a Marine out there at some point throughout the night, having a beer and kind of just chilling out. And then, one would become 2, and then 5 and 6, and then you're out there and you're talking with each other. And one of the things I remember about him was that he was always on the catwalks, like even till 1 o'clock in the morning. Like I'm like, bro, we got PT at 4:45. We need to go to bed. But every night, and you and I talked about this, like he would share stories about things that I was present for. But he'd be like, hey, Tony, remember this time? Or hey, remember? I was like, yeah, like we were here. And since I was younger, I don't think I appreciated that. And now I realize that he needed to talk about that and get those stories out to go to sleep. He needed some form of support system. And it wasn't like we were out there drinking till we got drunk, but like have a few drinks, calm down maybe the anxiety before going to bed, that post-traumatic stress that was kind of maybe not recognized.
Yeah, for sure.
And telling the stories, like the same ones every night that we were all present for. And then finally I started to realize like he needs me here to tell those stories. And I think if he was still here, I would love for him to tell one of those stories, right? Like just, like, and again, it's like that. I'm a dad, so you tell those dad stories. And like, that's the way I felt like it was just a repetitive thing. But it was incredible. So, and that was a big thing in the Marine Corps at the time, because if you went to mental health or some type of services, it was kind of looked at as a negative thing. Like maybe you couldn't handle being a Marine. And, so then when we got out, again, him and I still maintained contact. Everything was good until it wasn't, to where I wasn't hearing from him. Things weren't connecting as much. So he was an incredible person, a way better Marine than I was. He was incredible. Then he went to MSG duty, worked for the State Department. So, top level guy who had a good support system, but he didn't have the best support system, I think, sometimes out of work, which I think is important for us to have. That's why we come here. Yeah. This is my support system away from work. That way I can balance it with my family, my work, and then here. So we're kind of covered more times throughout the day. So, yeah, I mean, he was an incredible person. And I would think that if he saw this event, I think he'd be proud and happy. It's going to be difficult. I think when the day, when the event does come, I think I'm going to be probably emotional throughout the day.
Absolutely.
But, you know, I think, is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm really happy that you're doing it. It means a lot that you are able to give back to your community, but also honor your friend and the people who have passed on before him.
Yeah.
And I think your love and extension with all of this means a lot and is really important to me because it brings me in on the other side of the coin as well as being someone who lost someone to suicide, but also was the support system to those veterans and military as a spouse and advocate. So what I love about this event and what I've been drawn to is the fact that we often don't get to provide spaces for the community that supports the veterans in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very veteran focused, which rightly so. We were in a crisis for very long, still are. And what I love is that it's not just about one particular part of the community, because as a whole, we are a military community.
Mm-hmm.
And we have so many different parts and so many people that have been affected by suicide, also dealing with that now, and providing a place to find, community, camaraderie, and where you can show up authentically within your truth. There's a lot of times that I couldn't step into a place wanting community with my full truth and weight of what I was dealing with. And I feel like even though, suicide's really heavy, it's an honest reality that many of us face that we don't get to own because of the stigma and because of the fact that we're supposed to be strong, especially whether veteran, spouse, family, the child, you have to step up and be, strong in the face of worldly adversity, domestic adversity. You don't get to sink below and wallow because you don't have time to move the operational tempo of what, you had to deal with as a member of the military or as a veteran or as part of the family. And that kind of stays with you. It stays with you a lot, especially if you've been a military family in transition and aren't really embedded in that community right now and don't really have a lot of spaces to find people who may be struggling with a lot of, these issues. You're very fortunate to have a support system. And I feel like that needs to be encouraged throughout our community because this might be a jiu-jitsu event, but it's an extension of a community support system of those struggling with mental health and military affiliated areas. Yeah. Even civilian, honestly, so that was one thing that I really wanted to put out there and emphasize, that this event isn't just for military community. It's about a way to support as well as maybe even provide your empathy and, expertise. There's a lot of people in social work, a lot of community leaders that could come and just show support. Because honestly, we both know sometimes someone just showing up and telling their stories or just listening to their stories makes a difference. Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be about that. There's like, how many times are you like, you're BSing with your buddy or your friend, and it could be about football. That's what we used to use when we were getting bad places. Is like, let's just talk about football. Sure. It's something just random. It's like, talk to me, call me up. Like, what are you doing? And if it's something that's so off topic, I'm like, all right, that's where we're going. Yeah. It really is a matter of showing up. And I think why I appreciate you is you're showing up and you're being a community leader and showing up. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I've learned so much from you just in the few times that we've talked, because you really show the other side. I mean, because, I'm not in that position, but hearing and learning what you've gone through and what you've endured and being open and transparent with people is extremely important.